How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Esdeath, Sheele and Akame, part 3. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. 2 days later. Several individuals stood at attention inside the Emperor's throne room. They all had nervous expression, as they stared down at the man kneeling before them. What he had just informed them, shook them to the core. Say that again, Major. One of the men in the throne room commanded. He wore an Imperial general attire, and had short black hair. He was fairly young to be a general. It's confirmed that, the Revolutionary Army has taken out a Kaiser-class danger beast. The man kneeling in front of the throne informed them again. How in the hell is that possible? Another man asked, clearly freighted. He was clearly overweight. Even Esdeath and Budo wouldn't be able to do that. A different man stated, which earned the nods of the others. Just how in the hell did they accomplish something like that? The man in the general's attire asked, with a sense of urgency. If they have a powerful enough force to take out one of those, then we need to strengthen up our military even more. The overweight man shouted out. Emperor, what would you have us do? The general asked, looking up to the throne. Everyone else turned as well. A young boy with green shoulder-length hair which is braided on the sides and green eyes, sat on the throne. He wore a purple outfit with white boots and a blue mantle, as well as a large headdress. He looked bored in all honesty. Strengthen up our army would be good. Wouldn't it, Prime Minister? The young boy asked, looking over his shoulder. Behind the throne emerged an enormous old man who chomped down on different pieces of meat. He had long gray hair and a beard, as well as a mustache. He wore a gray jacket with a white coat on top. This man was the Imperial Prime Minister. Honest. Yes, boy. It would be an excellent strategy, but to do so we need to take care of our little assassin problem first. He said with a cheerful smile. Prime Minister, do you really think it's the time? We have a powerful force on our horizon, we shouldn't be worrying about assassins. The young general shouted out, calling out the Prime Minister. Honest simply smiled, and walked down to the man. This put everyone on edge. He walked straight up to him, and towered over him. Exactly my point, General. Which is why we need to take care of them now, rather than later. He said with another smile. I can see your point, sir. Abe stuttered out, clearly scared of the man. Honest smiled again. Good, and now? He said, leaning next to Abe's ear. If you ever speak out of term like that again, General Abe, I'll see to it your entire family is hanged for treason, and I'll make you watch. He said, with another smiles, before moving back to his place on the Emperor's side. The general looked down in fear, before he began to speak again. Yes, sir. Good. Now, Esdeath, do you have anything to report on this Kaiser-class kill? Surely the 3 beasts, or your spy ring would have picked up something. Honest asked the blue-haired general in the corner. She looked up from her spot in the corner with a sinister smirk, knowing who was already responsible for it. Yes. Actually, it's part of the reason I wanted to talk with you. Oh, please do explain. The Prime Minister asked. I believe that I know who was responsible for this. She said with, moving forward to the front of the throne. Oh really? Honest said with a smile. He could always trust Esdeath to get the job done. It wasn't a super weapon of some sorts, or a massive army. It was a person. Esdeath revealed. Almost everyone in the room besides her, went wide-eyed or were shocked. Even Honest had a serious expression. Surely this wouldn't be correct. There's no one in this world that can take on a Kaiser class. Honest said, staring down at her. Until recently, and it makes me so excited. She said with another sinister smile. Esdeath was going to get the boy on their side one way or another. He calls himself Naruto Uzumaki. He's a very powerful boy, he uses a power that makes our Taigas useless. She revealed. Again everyone in the room was shocked. They couldn't believe it. But suddenly the two massive doors in the throne room burst open, and a large hulking man walked in. He had spiky blonde hair with blue eyes, with two long pieces of hair jetting out behind him on each side. He wore a dark gray suit of armor with a red cloak. This was the great General Budo. Impossible, and if he's just a boy, then how can he be so strong? Budo said, as he walked up to them. General Budo, I can assure you that this boy is probably far stronger than any of us. He nearly defeated me in a single attack. Esdeath told them, and again nearly everyone's faces filled with shock. Honest was now particularly nervous. This Naruto boy was now officially on the top of his shit list. What? The overweight man shouted out. Impossible. General Abe said under his breath. How in the world can someone be strong enough to wipe the floor with Esdeath? Now Esdeath, surely you must be joking. Honest said, with a half-hearted smile. I am not. He is a very powerful individual. He killed 2 ultra-class danger beasts with ease as well. She informed the Prime Minister. If he is as dangerous as you say, then he needs to be brought in. Budo said, walking up to her. He crossed his arm with confidence. He was not going to be intimidated by some boy. The general's right. The Emperor said with a cheerful voice. Oh, how naive the young boy was. I doubt you could bring him in. Esdeath said, turning to him. As much as she respected him, and knew how powerful he was, the man could stand alone against the blonde. Watch me. Budo said, voice full of seriousness. Do you know where he is? The Prime Minister asked. Now came the complicated part, she didn't exactly know where he was. But if he hunch was right, he'd go for night raid, or they'd go for him. Either way, there was still a strong possibility that he was with them. Possible. He may be with night raid. Night raid, you say? Honest asked. This made him 10 times more stressed, causing him to eat more meat. His blood sugar was going to go through the roof. If they've gotten a hold of him, then we really need to get them. The Emperor said, trying to be serious. Honest knew he couldn't lose his cool in front of the Emperor, so he went back to his calm mode. That's correct, Emperor. He said, smiling, returning to his face. From here on the Imperial Guard will be put on high alert, same with the police. Budo said, as he turned for the door. And I'll personally hunt this boy down if I have to. He added, before walking out of the room. We'll coordinate with our spies to find their location. Esdeath said, with a bow. As she did this, the Prime Minister began to dismiss everyone. She remained in her bowing position, until everyone left the room. Now then, Esdeath, is there anything else you would like to discuss? Honest asked her. Esdeath looked up with a sinister smile. Yes, Prime Minister, there is one thing. Ask away. Honest said with a confident smirk. He could always count on her for anything, so he needed to give her the best in return. Anything she asked for, he would provide. Naruto is the man I would like to marry. She revealed. The Emperor's eyes grew wide, as Honest began to choke on the food. Just what kind of monster must this boy be? Honest thought to himself, as he threw up a piece of food. Esdeath just smirked. Hey sis, we're all going out to train. Want to come with? Tatsumi asked, as he walked past the blonde Taiga user, with the rest of Night Raid, minus Bullet. He was already out training. They were currently standing in the dining room, and Leon was preparing a plate of food. A lot had happened in the past 2 days. Tatsumi and Seo were beginning to train harder, and harder with Bullet. Agents from the Revolutionary Army had arrived to take away the Kaiser-class body. It was safe to assume that, the men that arrived were surely surprised to see the corpse of the giant dragon. All in all, things were looking good for Night Raid. Yeah, sure, I'll be out there in a second. Leon said, as she finished preparing food on the tray. Everyone already knew who it was for. Going to check on them again? Lubbock asked, moving to the front of the group. Yeah. Leon said, not paying him much mind, as she finished preparing the food. She hasn't left his side. Leon said, picking up the tray, and walking out of the room. When do you think he'll wake up? Doya asked. No idea. Tatsumi replied. The blonde had done a lot. He had saved all of them from that Kaiser class. They wouldn't be here without him. Lubbock stepped forward, and put his arm around Tatsumi. He had a bright smile. You saw the damage and power he unleashed. It was insane. The Empire definitely has something to fear now. He laughed. I heard Kurama talk about how he hadn't even gone full power. Sheele added. God, that's scary. Mine said, with a shudder. How could this boy be that powerful? It was just unimaginable. Sorry Seo, and Tatsumi looks like you won't be able to train with Akame for some time. Lubbock said with a devious smirk. Tatsumi knew he was up to something, and it couldn't have been good. Mine got the same feeling. That's fine. Seo said with a smile. She understood that Akame wanted to stay by Naruto's side right now. Yeah, you'll be trained by mine instead. Lubbock said with a wide smile. Both Tatsumi and mine's expressions immediately changed. What? They both shouted out in unison. Lubbock fell on the floor laughing. Suddenly Bullet popped his head through the open door to the training grounds. Hey, what are you all doing? Let's train. He shouted out with glee, that could rival Rock Lee. You got it, bro. Tatsumi said with stars in his eyes. Doya and mine just snorted, and rolled their eyes. Leon walked down the hallway towards the blonde's room. After the battle with the Kaiser class, Naruto had fallen unconscious, and has still yet to wake up. Just as she reached the doors, Negenda walked out of it, with a small smile. Yo boss. How are they doing? Leon asked. She was worried about Naruto, but she was also worried Akame. She had never seen her act like this. Good. I expect Naruto will wake up soon. He'll make a full recovery. Negenda said with a warm smile. She was glad to see the old members already warming up to the new ones. And Akame? Leon asked. Negenda's smile got wider. It's so amazing to watch. She's finally falling for someone. So you were correct. Leon added. Hinting towards their conversation a few days ago, about the two. Yeah. She hasn't left his bedside at all. It's good to see her like this. Negenda explained. What, all worried? Leon asked, raising an eyebrow. No. Finally opening up, and putting more care into someone than just her sister. Negenda said, looking towards the closed door, that lead into Naruto's room. Leon immediately began to die laughing. Ha! You can't be serious. Akame's goal has always been to save her sister. She loves that little demon to death. She can't care about anyone more. She snorted. Well. Negenda said, beginning to trail off. Leon raised her eyebrow again. There was something the boss wasn't telling her. I'll believe it when I see it. To tell you the truth, Leon. While I was away, I came across something interesting. I didn't just go on a trip to go update command about how we were doing. I was also given some pretty interesting information from a reliable source. Negenda explained to her. What was that? Leon asked. It revolves around those two. The boss said, pointing to the closed door. But you left before Naruto even showed up. How do you know it revolves around him as well? Leon asked. She was curious before, but now Negenda had her full attention. Suddenly Negenda's mood changed. The air in the hallway suddenly became a lot colder. Negenda moved closer to Leon, and narrowed her eyes. What I'm about to tell you is classified beyond belief. Do you understand? Leon knew it was time to get serious. Yes. I'll also tell Akame and Naruto this over time. Negenda added. Shoot, boss. Leon said, crossing her arms. Looking over towards the door. What could Akame be thinking right now? She thought to herself. Akame sat in a chair next to Naruto. Her hand on his. She squeezed it tightly, and in her lap sat a sleeping Yukari, who also refused to leave his side. You'll wake up soon, right? Akame asked out loud, looking at the unconscious blonde. He slept peacefully in bed. Akame was remembering everything he'd done for everyone, including her. He stopped the beast, saved everyone, joined the good fight, and protected her. Naruto gave her hope that this corrupt world would be saved. But also he gave her something more, she couldn't explain it. All she had was a warm, and sometimes painful in her chest. It made her feel good. He's a good person, she said to herself, looking down at his sleeping figure. His chest slowly moved up and down, as his spiky blonde hair shifted slightly. She wanted to know more about him, so much. He had told her about some of his life, but she knew he was holding back some. Maybe, just maybe, he could help her understand love. Akame? Yukari stuttered out, finally waking up. She looked up at the girl with sleep still fresh in her eyes. I'm here, Akame said with a smile. She had to admit, having this little girl around changed the atmosphere of the place. She was still so young and innocent. But she still knew the hardships of the world. Akame wondered what she would grow up to become. Well, with Naruto as her father figure, she could only guess. Has Papa woke up yet? Yukari asked, looking back towards the sleeping Hokage. The day after Naruto had gone unconscious, Yukari started to call him Papa. Akame asked her why she did that. Yukari just said that she's never had a dad before, and Naruto seemed like he'd be a good one. No. He hasn't. But I'm sure he will. Akame responds to her with a smile, as she squeezed Naruto's hand. Good. What he did was amazing. He saved everyone from that danger beast, Yukari said with a bright smile. That he did, Akame replied. She was so glad Yukari was grateful for what Naruto had done for everyone. Suddenly Akame felt a slight squeeze on her hand. She immediately looked over to see Naruto smiling at her. Hey Akame, he said softly. Akame's eyes immediately lit up, and she couldn't help but to smile. She knew he'd wake up, but she couldn't help herself. Both her and Yukari reached out and hugged the blonde tightly. Papa! Yukari exclaimed with glee. Papa? Naruto managed to get out, while being crushed to death by both of the girls. Yeah. I thought that because I've never had one that you'd be mine, the little girl said with a bright smile. Naruto looked shocked for a moment. He couldn't believe she wanted that. It made him truly happy. Of course I will, Yukari, he croaked out, trying not to get emotional. Yay! She shouted out, bouncing on his lap. Akame smiled down at her. This little girl seemed like she was so full of energy. Akame looked over to Naruto, he smiled down at her. Akame's heart jumped a beat. It was that smile again. She loved it. But something was slightly off, it looked like he had something on his mind. Say Yukari? Naruto asked. Yeah. She looked up at him with her big blue eyes. Could you go find Leon and Negenda for me? He asked her with a small smile. Akame looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Why did he need to find those two? Roger Dodger, she said, giving him a salute and walking towards the door. Naruto looked back to Akame, and she at him. Both of them never noticed the hands that grabbed Yukari as she walked out of the door. Akame just stared at him for a moment in silence. But she got antsy and tried to start up a conversation. She's going to turn out great when she grows. Naruto reached and grabbed Akame. He brought her in close to him. She was in shock, as well as embarrassed. Naruto, she stammered out, trying to keep her cool. He didn't say a word, and just held her tight. Akame didn't protest much, she liked it. A lot. But then she noticed something. He was crying. Tears slowly fell from his face. He was hurt. She didn't like that. I'm glad to see you're okay. He finally said, still holding her tight. Are you alright? She asked, looking up at him. His eyes were red, and he looked very saddened. She really didn't like this. I'm sorry, it's just, I needed to get this out of the way now. When I saw that danger beast attack you, I was boiling with rage. I didn't want to see you hurt, Akame. I acted on instinct. I mean, I've liked girls before, but now it's completely different. My chest hurts, whenever I look at you. He revealed, tears streaming down his face. He was remembering the attack with the danger beast. He had almost lost her, someone he considered to be his precious person. He had already lost so many, he didn't want to lose her too. But it was different with her. His chest began to hurt severely whenever the thought of her being hurt inched its way into his head. Naruto. Akame began, her eyes wide. She couldn't believe it. He was experiencing the same thing as her. It made her happy, that he was feeling the same thing as her. Naruto looked at her for a moment, and realized she wasn't going to say anything more. He now realized how stupid he was being. He had to try, and fix this. I'm sorry. I understand if you... Akame's eyes widened, she had to act fast. No. I don't know, Naruto. She shouted, gripping his shirt. She moved closer to him, and was literally sitting on him now. She continued. My chest hurts too. Every time I look at you as well. Since the first time I met you, it's been like this. I've only ever had love for my sister, but now, even after this short time, I think I have it for someone else. She said, moving her mouth closer to his. Naruto did the same. And the two met, with a long, and passionate kiss. Wait, so you're saying? Leon quietly shouted. These two were destined for each other. That's what the catalyst said. Negenda whispered, pointing to the closed door. That's impossible. Leon said to herself. From what she's been told, Akame and Naruto will be extremely important in the future. Like life-changing. He's never been wrong. The catalyst is the only reason we've been winning against the Empire. Negenda explained to him. Shit. If he predicted this, then what they'll do. Leon trailed off. It's scary. Negenda said, slightly shuddering. Suddenly the door began to open. Leon and Negenda froze, staring at the doorway. Yukari looked at the two, with a raised eyebrow. She was about to signal Naruto, but Leon grabbed her. Negenda grabbed the door, and closed it just enough so they could see in. Shoot. We've been caught. Leon whispered, removing her hand from Yukari's face. She looked up at the two. Oh Leon, Naruto wanted to talk with. Leon immediately covered her mouth again, and signaled her to be quiet. We don't want Naruto, or Akame to find out that we're here. Negenda said with a smile. Yukari nodded, and Leon removed her hand again. She looked towards the crack in the door. Damn. The blonde taiga user said to herself, as she watched the sight before her. She had to give credit to those two, they definitely work fast. The two finished their kiss, and looked at each other, with bright smiles. They were both happy. But there was something the Akame wanted to tell the blonde. Do you remember the other night, when you told me about your dream to become Hokage, and how you finally achieved it? Yeah. What about it? He asked. I to have a dream. She said, with a confident expression. This dream was something she would achieve. Just like Naruto has achieved his. Really? The blonde asked. He was surprised, but at the same time he wasn't. Everyone had a dream. Yes. Want to hear it? Akame asked. I'd be happy too. The blonde said with a smile. If this was important to her, he would hear it. Hell, he would help her reach it, just like others helped him reach his. My dream is. She paused for a moment. My dream is to save my little sister Kurome. She's with the Empire, she's a part of one of their assassination squads. She believes that they're right and just. But she's wrong. They give her drugs to enhance all her abilities, and she suffers greatly from it. I want to take her away from all that, be it taking her away or killing her. I will do it. Akame revealed to him. She didn't know how he would take it. So she patiently waited for an answer. Then Akame. Naruto began. Yes. She asked, getting nervous. Akame didn't know what he'd say. What you have between your sisters, is your own. But I won't let you kill her. Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. He was tired of all this killing crap. But Naruto, she began, but was stopped by Naruto, who brought her in close to him. He began to whisper to her. I give you my word that I'll save your sister from all that. And I never go back on my word. Because that's my ninja way. Naruto. She stuttered out. Akame couldn't believe it. How in the world could he promise her something like that? It didn't seem real. But then again, he didn't seem real. Everything about him just seemed too good to be true. So she just leaned into his chest, and let him continue. I've seen enough death and destruction to last a lifetime. I'm not gonna let you go through with it. I don't like seeing people in pain. Especially you. Enough people have already died, Akame. If this is a burden on you, then please let me bear half of it. He said, looking down at her with another heartwarming smile. Her ears skipped a beat. She continued, believe it, why in the world would he do this? But he also guessed it was the same reason he saved her, and cared for her. It was something that couldn't be shaken. He cared about her, and it was slowly developing into love. She was still speechless. But Akame knew he was waiting for a response. Thank you. She whispered out, putting her face into his chest. She wanted to cry, she was crying. He would so easily take this burden onto him as well. Naruto was one of the most selfless people she'd ever met. He'd renew hope in the world, she just knew he would. Heh. That's what I'm here for. I have to live up to being a Hokage. They protect everyone. I also have to live up to the word on the back of that jacket. But most of all, I decided. For as long as I live, I will protect you. He said, stroking her hair. This caused her to cry even more. She cried into his chest for a couple minutes, before beginning to calm down. Little did both of them know Leon, Yukari, and Negenda had watched the whole thing. Leon and the boss both had large grins across their faces, and Yukari was trying not to tear up. Akame quickly whipped the tears, and looked at Naruto with a smile. She was happy, but suddenly something immediately crossed her mind, that he said earlier. Say. You mentioned a girl named Sakura. She was one of your teammates, right? Yeah. Naruto said with a sad smile. He wasn't going to lie, he missed her, he missed everyone. You have feelings for her? Akame asked, getting slightly worried. Naruto looked towards the window, out to the beautiful day which awaited them. He didn't like to talk about this, but he knew he would have to get it out of the way sooner or later. Naruto slowly exhaled, and looked back to her. Well, when I was younger, yeah. I cared for her, I still do. I see. Akame said, putting her head down in sadness. There was another girl, this didn't make her feel good. That there was another girl out there who Naruto cared for. The blonde saw this, and immediately realized he said the wrong thing. He grabbed her shoulder, and made her look up at him. She's like a sister to me. It was stupid of me to think I would ever date her. Personally, I was getting tired of being thrown around, and being ignored, and abused. He said, looking down, with some sadness in his eyes. You were thrown around? She asked, with a slight frown, but inside she was steaming. This girl would do all that to him. Naruto was one of the nicest people in the world, so why in the hell did this Sakura girl do that to him? Akame swore that if she ever met Sakura, she'd make her pay it. Yeah. A lot, actually. I couldn't tell you the amount of times I've been thrown in a sushi bar. Oh, those poor fishes. He said, with an awkward smile, as he rubbed the back of his neck. This earned him a small giggle from Akame. She was like Granny. Naruto laughed. Granny? Akame asked, tilting her head. Yeah, Granny Tsunade. The fifth Hokage. She threw me around too, whenever I acted like an idiot. He explained to her, with a wide grin. Remembering the women. Suddenly a unique thought popped into Akame's head. So he likes rough relationships, and rough women. She thought to herself. But I don't want you to think I like that kinda stuff. Naruto stammered out, making sure Akame didn't get the wrong idea. Deleting mental note. Akame thought to herself, with a small smile. Naruto began to speak up. Well, since he wasn't able to finish, as loud noises began to come from behind the door. The two raised their guard slightly. Leon, watch out. A voice whispered. Sorry, boss. Another whispered back, but then a large bang was heard against the wall. Yukari. The other voice whispered loudly. Both Akame and Naruto had deadpanned expressions on at this point. I don't know what's going on. A smaller voice shouted out, as another loud yelp was heard. A couple seconds later Leon came falling through the door, followed by Yukari, who landed on her back. Negenda just looked away from the group, she still stood in the hallway. Most people would think that she wasn't trying to show embarrassment, but in reality Negenda was trying to hold off the laughter. Heya! Leon shouted, looking up at them with an awkward smile. They had been caught. Papa. I found them for you. Yukari said, jumping off Leon's back, and onto the bed towards him, and Akame. That you did, Yukari, thanks. Naruto said with a smirk, looking down at Leon, who continued to awkwardly smile. Negenda walked back into the room, whipping the tears from her eyes. She has laughed too hard. You two have seemed to take a liking to each other. Naruto and Akame's faces both got extremely red. They had heard the whole thing. Ah. Both of them began, but Negenda stopped them. Relax, I'm just messing with you two. Although it's still strange to see Akame like this. She smirked, Akame's face got even redder. It makes me happy. Negenda added. But then she immediately focused attention to Naruto, who was looking up at the ceiling, like it was the most interesting thing in the world. It's good to see you're okay. She told him. Naruto snapped back to reality, and gave her a wide grin. Yeah. I'm fully rested now. He exclaimed. Negenda was about to say something, but an immediate puff of smoke in the middle of the room caught her attention. Hey, what about me? Kurama yelled out, looking up at her. Leon got up from the floor, and looked down at the small fox. Aw, poor little Kurama. Want a hug? She asked. Kurama kept a neutral expression on, and looked at her. No thanks. I can smell where you've been. Why, you little? Leon began, and the fox snickered. But immediately after he remembered the one person who gave amazing hugs. He quickly sensed for her, and finally located her at the training grounds. Kurama scampered over to the window, and looked out of it. Sheele! He yelled out. Everyone thought he was crazy, there was no way in hell that she'd hear him. But by the power of Kami, it happened. What? A faint voice asked in the distance. No one could believe it. Kurama simply smiled. He had waited for this. I'm all better now. Can I get one of those hugs? He shouted out. Again, everyone in the room didn't think she would accept, but again they got a response. Okay. Sheele replied. Kurama's eyes instantly lit up, he loved her hugs, they were legendary. But he was too busy focusing on his fantasy of Sheele to pay any attention to the figure approaching him from behind. Leon, with lightning speed, picked the fox up, and hoisted him above her. Kurama looked down at her with a don't do it look. Leon smiled. Bye. Wait, what the hellllllllllllll? He screamed out, as she threw him out of the window, towards the training grounds. That was mean. Negenda said, crossing her arms. Naruto snickered at this. He's an immortal fox. He'll survive. The Jinchuriki explained, with a laugh. This earned him another giggle from Akame, and also Yukari. A couple seconds after, they all heard a loud gasp from outside the window. Kurkun, what happened? Sheele said, with a panicked. She had gotten in the habit of calling Kurama that now. He didn't mind it at all. I got pushed out of the window, by Leon. The fox shouted. Naruto could have sworn he heard a sniffle as well. God, that fox was acting like a 5-year-old. You poor thing. Sheele said, with an innocent voice. Yes. Kurama shouted out a couple seconds later. Naruto had to guess that he got his hug. God, this fox was worse than pervy sage. After another small laugh from Kurama's antics, Negenda turned to the blonde. Anyway, Naruto, you said you're back up to full strength? Yeah. I don't think something like that will happen again. My body's fully adjusted to using sage chakra again. He explained to her, tightening his right fist. Kurama has explained to him that he was exhausted from chakra loss, and overusing it. For he hadn't used that amount of sage chakra for some time. But now Kurama told him he was good to go. He also explained how him falling unconscious had to do with him going through the portal. But the blonde didn't pay much attention to that part. Negenda smiled, it was time then. Good, because soon you'll be going on a mission. Akame looked slightly shocked. Was the blonde ready to take on an assassination mission? He could barely kill the intruders. But Naruto knew he had to do this. What are the details? He asked. Negenda, and Leon smirked. Akame again looked shocked, but then it was soon replaced by a small smile. He was really trying. It's simple. There's a pretty popular slave owner in town, we've been requested to take him out. He's located in the red light district, near all the whorehouses. We need you to take him out. Leon explained to him. Normally we would get to this a couple weeks later, but since we have more people we can get to it now. She added. Akame, Leon, Tatsumi, and Seo will be running other missions that night as well. So you won't be alone in the capital. Negenda said, crossing her arms. She knew very well that the blonde could level the entire capital if he wanted to, but he was still new to killing people. If things went south, Akame or Leon were going to be instructed to intervene. When do we leave? Naruto asked. In a week. So feel free to train, and get more comfortable with the members. She said, with a wink, looking over to Akame. Whose face brightened again. Negenda made her way to the door, said a goodbye, and walked out. Who knows, maybe you can teach them some things. Leon said, carelessly following her out, and waving goodbye. See ya. Akame said with a quaint smile. Naruto without warning got up out of bed, picking up Akame and Yukari. They both were shocked for a moment, but quickly settled down. Yukari was beginning to hum, while Akame's face was bright red. A second later he set both of them down, and went to grab his flak jacket, for he only wore the black pants and shirt. Come on, let's do some training. He exclaimed, zipping his flak jacket up. Naruto decided to leave the Haori on the desk in the corner. He wouldn't need it for training. Yeah. Yukari exclaimed, with a bright smile. Almost as bright as Naruto's. They both moved to the door, and looked back at Akame. You coming? Yukari asked, impatiently. Naruto smiled, and walked over to her. He offered her his hand. Come on. He said quietly. Okay. She said with determination. If Naruto was going to have this much determination to protect her, then she would also do the same for him. She would protect him as well. Day of the mission. Ha! Tatsumi shouted out, rushing Bullet with his sword. Almost all of Night Raid was at the training grounds now practicing. Bullet stood his ground, and patiently waited for the young boy to reach him. What Tatsumi didn't know is, with age comes experience. He was about to find out the hard way. As Tatsumi ran towards him, Bullet breathed in for a moment. Tatsumi was closing in fast, but Bullet waited. Just before he reached him, Bullet moved to the right and tripped Tatsumi. The boy tumbled to the ground, and landed on his butt. "Crap," he said, breathing heavily. Bullet walked over to Tatsumi, and offered him his hand. He gladly took it. "You're getting better, Tatsumi." Bullet spoke, with a smile. "You really think so, bro?" Tatsumi exclaimed. "Sure do." He responded with a nod. The biggest grin appeared across his face. "Yeah," he exclaimed. "Let's go again. You need to prepare for your assignment tonight," Bullet said, raising his sword again. "Hell yeah, bro," Tatsumi said, raising his sword as well. Sheele, Kurama, and Seo all sat off to the side on the porch, watching the two duel. "Tatsumi's so energetic," Sheele said, petting Kurama, who sat on her lap. "Well, he was the most eager one of us to go rush into the capital," Seo said, with a bored expression. She had trained all week with Sheele and Leon, but now she took a must-needed break. "I expected as much," Doya said, walking up to them. She smirked, and looked down at Sheele, noticing Kurama in her lap. "Having fun, Kurama?" Kurama dug more into Sheele's lap with a smile. "I've decided Sheele will be my wife." Everyone's eyes widened, as the words came out of his mouth. "Eh?" Doya and Seo shouted out in unison. Did the fox just claim someone? Could he even do that? "Oh, Kurkun," Sheele said, with a smile, hugging him. "I'm serious," Kurama said, looking up at her with a blank expression. Before anyone could say anything else, Doya smacked the fox on the head. "Geez, you mangy little furball." "Ow. That hurt," Kurama said, rubbing his head. "You're a freaking ancient fox, how does that hurt?" she asked, looking down at him, as he continued to rub his head. A couple seconds later Sheele began to pet him again, which calmed him down. "Anyway, where's Naruto?" Doya asked, not bothering to look around. "Over there." Seo pointed into the far distance. Doya looked past Tatsumi and Bullet to see Naruto and Akame in the far corner of the training field. They both stood looking at each other, readying themselves for what Doya could only guess was a duel. "Alright, one last time, let's go," Naruto exclaimed, with a smirk. "Naruto, if this thing cuts you once you'll die, remember that," Akame said to him, with a serious expression. She didn't want him to get hurt, or die. "I'll be careful, Akame," Naruto said, rising his weapons. She nodded, and got into her stance. The two stared at each other for a moment. She was the one to make the first move. Akame immediately rushed the blonde, with her blade, but Naruto countered with his 2 chakra knuckle blades. Thankfully no chakra was being moved through them right now, as Naruto didn't want to land a severe blow on her. The two then quickly began to exchange blades. This went on for a good 2 minutes before Akame backed away. His defense was solid, but if she could get him to attack, then she'd find an opening. She baited the blonde towards her. Naruto took it. He rushed towards her, with full intent to finish it with the blades. Akame slightly smirked. Luckily he had only agreed to use one Justu against her during their match. Naruto clashed one of the blades with hers, as he aimed his other for her stomach. Akame used her leg to kick the approaching arm up. She didn't even realize that she pushed it right into her blade. But he jerked his right arm away, so he wouldn't get cut by it, leaving an opening for her. She used the chance to kick him in his stomach. Naruto quickly flew back, and toppled over on the ground. Akame immediately rushed over to him, and raised her sword above him. "It's over," Akame stated, looking down at him. On the outside she held a neutral expression, like she always did when battling. But on the inside she was ecstatic. Akame couldn't believe that she actually beat him. Fine, you got me. Naruto said, holding both of his hands up. Akame slightly smirked, but a split second later Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. What? Akame asked out loud, looking around. An instant later, she felt a cold piece of metal move across her neck. Or so you thought. I win. Naruto whispered into her ear. She nodded her head, and he lowered the blade. Naruto, that's not fair. Akame said, turning around, and looking back at him. Shadow Clone Jutsu. One of my most signature moves. He said with a smirk. She slightly pouted, but stopped when she heard the sound of footsteps approaching them. Hey, you two lovebirds, done yet? Leon asked, walking up to them, and slightly annoyed. She was suffering from a hangover. What is it, Leon? Akame asked, sheathing her taigu. Boss called you in, it's almost time to go. Leon responded, rubbing her head, with a groan. Alright. Come on. Naruto said, looking back at Akame. The three quickly made their way to the main meeting room for night raid. Negenda sat in her chair. Yukari was surprisingly playing with mine in the corner. Tatsumi and Seo were also standing there, waiting for them. Finally here? Negenda asked, looking up at all of them. Yeah, boss. Leon said, rubbing the back of her neck. Well then, I can get straight down to business then. We're here to give the rest of you details on your missions. Negenda revealed. The biggest smile appeared on Tatsumi's face. Yes. Finally. He exclaimed. Tatsumi. Seo said, elbowing Tatsumi in the ribs. Ow. Sorry. He said, rubbing the side of his chest. He didn't want to admit it, but Seo hit hard. Anyway, Akame and Leon. Negenda said, looking to the two assassins. They both stood at attention towards her. Your target will be the oil merchant Kamal. Got it. Leon said, giving her a smirk. She knew this was going to be too easy. Tatsumi and Seo, your target will be Ogre, captain of the city guard. Negenda revealed to the two. Understood. Seo said with a nod. She knew exactly what they had to do. Sheele had trained her well, in the past week. Wait, what did these people do? Tatsumi asked. Negenda didn't say a word, she just motioned towards Leon. Explain. Negenda ordered. Ogre had been accepting illegal bribes from Gamal. Every time Gamal did something illegal, Ogre would frame someone else for it. I've gotten all of this from the client who asked us to do this. Leon explained to everyone. Wow, wait, someone asked you to do this? Tatsumi asked, slightly shocked. Yes. Even though we get missions from headquarters, we also take missions from the people. Showing them that we really are on their side. Continue, Leon. Negenda said. Anyway, the client's husband had been framed and killed by the two. She paid us to kill both of them. Leon said, tossing a bag to Negenda. She caught the bag with ease, and tossed it up and down. That's a lot of coin. Tatsumi said, staring at the bag. He couldn't believe someone would pay that much to kill people. I caught the scent of some unsavory things on her. I believe she was selling her body to get all this. Leon said. Tatsumi's eyes widened. That's disgusting. He thought to himself. As for you, Naruto, there's been a change of plans. Negenda said, looking to Naruto. What do you mean? The blonde asked, looking at her. What could have possibly happened? The slave owners moved shop. Leon said. He's now operating closer to the palace. Negenda revealed. Just outside its walls, in fact. Leon added. Akame's eyes widened slightly. This wasn't good. You'll be at great risk there. I'm pulling you from the mission. Negenda said, hanging her head low. Akame sighed a sigh of relief. He wouldn't have to put his life in danger. Even though she knew, he could take the entire empire on if he wanted to. Like hell you are. Naruto shouted out. Everyone froze. What? Negenda asked, looking up. She was confused. I'm not gonna sit around here while a piece of trash sells people off like animals. Why the hell would I do that? Naruto yelled out. He wouldn't let these bastards get away with this. People weren't meant to be treated like this. Naruto. Akame said, reaching out towards him. She knew he was right, but she didn't want him to go so close to the palace. No. Negenda said, causing everyone to take another pause. He's right. I don't want to underestimate Naruto here. He'll go. Negenda said with a nod. Thank you. When do we leave? Naruto asked. Immediately. You'll all be in the capital for a couple hours. I don't want these men dead until tonight. Understood. Negenda ordered. Yeah. Leon said, with a smirk. You got it. Tatsumi exclaimed. Seo smiled as well. Don't get yourselves killed. Mine finally spoke up. She looked directly at Tatsumi when she said it. He just raised an eyebrow in return. Good luck, Naruto. Yukari said with a bright smile. Naruto grinned, as he gave her a thumbs up. Akame was looking at him the entire time. She had an extremely worried expression. For some reason, something felt strange to her. Then go all of you. Strike quick and precise. Negenda commanded, with determination behind her voice. They all nodded, and walked out of the room. Naruto had entered the capital some time ago. He was now wandering around the street, as the sun reached the horizon. This particular part of town seemed more lively than the rest. But people still had some pretty big frowns on their faces, as Naruto passed them. God, he wanted to help these people. Man, why do I get this assignment? I'm all alone. I wish I had someone to talk to. He said, putting his arms behind his back. People gave him odd stares, as they walked past him. But he was used to it. You have me. Kurama said, out of the blue. I thought you were with Sheele. Naruto asked. I figured you'd need someone to talk to. Besides, she's not going anywhere. Kurama said with a chuckle in his voice. Kurama, you scare me sometimes. Naruto said, with a sigh. Heh. It's my job, kid. He laughed. I thought your job was to never meet up with rest of the tailed beasts. So the 10 Tails is released again? Naruto sarcastically asked. Ah. Shut up. Kurama said, with a grumble. Ha ha ha. The blonde laughed out. So what about you, and Akame? The 9 Tails suddenly asked. Naruto's face immediately blushed. I don't know what you're talking about. Naruto said with stutter. Oh, don't bullshit me, kid. You two are head over heels for each other. Kurama said, with another chuckle. He had watched their whole little moment unfold earlier. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Naruto said, with a nervous laugh. I sense that you have the same feeling for her that you had when you met Minato and Kushina. More Kushina though. Since the first thing you did when you saw your dad was punch him. Kurama said. Naruto's face blushed even more. Ah, shut up, you noisy fox. He shouted out loud. Everyone around him gave him an odd look. Ha 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 ha. You look like an idiot. Kurama laughed inside his head. Naruto was about to yell back, but there was a rather large bang in one of the shops to the side of the street. A second later, a young boy was pulled out of the shop by 2 Imperial soldiers. A little girl followed them out. She had long curly, blonde hair, with green eyes. She wore a simple white dress. That a girl her age would wear. Let me go. The boy shouted out, as they dragged him out to the middle of the street. You know the law. No tearing down the wanted posters. One of the men shouted out, as he held up a crumbled up picture of Bullet. "Oh dear," a onlooker said. "This is bad," an old woman said, who was standing behind Naruto. Then young boy got out of the soldier's grasp, and looked up at them. "Why shouldn't I? Night raid's doing the right thing. Taking out filth like you." "Poor choice of words, brat," the other soldier said, beeping his rifle. The little girl rushed up to the man with the gun, and tugged at his arm. "Please sir. He's an idiot. Don't harm him. We're very sorry," she said, bowing to him. "Nope," was all the officer said in response, as he smacked the little girl across the face with his rifle. "Ah!" she shouted out, as she was sent to the ground. Her forehead began to gush out blood, and she began to cry. "What the hell? You monsters, leave her alone!" the little boy shouted, trying to get to his friend, but the soldier in front of him, with the rifle, pressed his foot on his chest. The other soldier walked up to the little girl, and grabbed her by the front of her dress. "How about we have some fun with you? You little bitch," he said, licking his lips disgustingly. "Hey!" the blonde shouted out, rushing towards the man. He gripped his arm tightly, and stared him down. But the man was only slightly scared. "What? Let go of me!" he shouted out, trying to get out of the blonde's iron grip. "You can't hurt those kids," Naruto shouted out. "Oh yeah, watch me," the man standing over the boy said with a laugh. He pulled out his side arm, and immediately shot the boy in the right leg, with a sadistic smile. "Ha!" the little boy screamed out in pain, as blood began to pour out of the wound. The soldier above him smirked. "See? You don't mess with us." The soldier trailed off, as he watched his partner get sent flying into a nearby wall. He hit with so much force, that it cracked behind him. Naruto didn't know if he was dead, he didn't care. The Jinchuriki looked over the man, with a very pissed off expression. The man knew he fucked up. Naruto instantly put on his knuckle blades, and rushed the man. The soldier immediately began to open fire at the blonde. Naruto dodged the bullets with ease, and reached the man precision. He grabbed the man's gun, and snapped it right in half. "How the hell?" the man asked, looking at Naruto, scared shitless. So much even that he pissed his pants right in front of everyone. "It's over," the blonde called out. He punched him directly in the jaw, shattering it, and also cutting into it. The man went flying into his partner. "Too easy," Naruto said, taking his knuckle blades off. But as soon as he took them off, the little girl came running up to him. She was still bleeding from her forehead. "Help!" she screamed, pointing over to the little boy who was still bleed on the ground. The Jinchuriki immediately rushed over to him, and kneeled down. The boy looked up at him, with tears rushing out of his eyes. I can't feel my leg," he stuttered out. Naruto's expression immediately changed, he was about to come to tears. There's no reason that this little boy should be hurt like this. He was starting to grow a deep hatred for this prime minister. "Hold still for me," Naruto managed to say. He put his hand over the boy's leg, and orange chakra began to swirl around it. A second later the bullet was pushed out, and the wound healed. "Amazing!" the little girl gasped out as she kneeled by him. She helped him up, and Naruto kneeled down in front of the two. "What you did was very reckless. Those men could have killed you," Naruto said, basically scolding the two. "Yes sir. Thank you very much," the little said, with another bow. "Don't mention it," Naruto said, getting up from the two. But he was immediately surrounded by all of the people that watched it happen. "Unbelievable," one of the men, eyes full of glee. "You have a gift, my boy," an older man said. "Is that a taigu?" a woman asked. Naruto was getting swamped with questions. He slowly backed from all of them. "Well, I better get going. Naruto began to walk away from the group, towards his objective. But the little girl rushed over to him, and grabbed his haori. "Wait! Who are you?" she asked, looking up at him, with her big green eyes. For some reason he was reminded of Yukari. He turned, and kneeled down in front of her. "You'll come to know in time. But for now, just believe that what's on my back, still exists for all of you here," he said, getting up, and walking away. The little girl was confused for a moment, until she saw the kanji on the back of his haori. "Hope," she said out loud, as she watched him walk away. A slight blush appeared across her face. Naruto continued to walk down the road, as the large walls of the Imperial Palace came into view. "That wasn't exciting," Kurama said, with a bored tone in his voice. "Well, it's not like we're going to fight strong opponents every day," Naruto told the fox. "True, true." The Nine Tails snickered. "Yeah. We're closing in on the area. Keep quiet for now," Naruto ordered the fox. "You got it," Kurama replied. Naruto turned down the alleyway, and immediately jumped on top of the roofs. He rushed across the rooftops, closing in on the target. "There's the house," he said to Kurama. Naruto jumped onto the roof, across the way of the target house. He looked past it, and at the enormous walls to the Imperial Palace. It was now dark now, and the city's lights were now on, lighting up the sky. Leon was right. It was right up next to the wall, Kurama said with a whistle, appearing next to Naruto. "Doesn't matter, let's go," he told the fox. Naruto also created 4 shadow clones, all stood next to him, staring down at the house. Naruto gave a certain signal, and all of them jumped. "No problem," Kurama said, jumping down off the rooftops, following the clones. He was ready. Little did they know, that a certain blue-hair woman was watching the entire thing go down from on top of the palace walls. She grinned. "Finally. He's here." She jumped down off the wall, off towards the building where the blonde was headed to. Things were about to get interesting. Inside the house, over 12 men sat around a table, happily drinking booze, and smoking. Security stood in every corner of the room, with guns at the ready. Towards the center of the table stood a skinny man, who had an almost lifeless girl next to him. She looked half dead. When the man saw this, he pushed the women away from him. "Dumb bitch!" he shouted out, looking down at her with a disgusted expression. "Another one down?" one of the men next to him asked. "Yeah, they are falling like flies nowadays," the man responded back. "You know, we should really think about expanding our area," another man across the table suggested. "Yeah, we could find more whores," a man next to him cheered out. Gentlemen, that's not why we assembled here today," a voice said. They all turned back to see a young man standing in the room. He had light brown hair and amber eyes. He wore a formal suit with an orange jacket and tie. "Ah, Mr. Bach. I take it you've brought us something special?" the man in the center asked. He was clearly the one in charge. The man now known as Bach nodded, and he motioned towards the door. A second later they opened, and 3 little girls were brought in. They looked around, slightly scared. The one in the lead had long pink hair with her bangs hanging just above her pink eyes. She wore a pink raincoat with a matching hat and boots. She proudly took the lead even though she clearly looked frightened. The one behind her had shoulder-length golden blonde hair and amber eyes. She wore an orange raincoat and a pair of matching boots. The girl looked more frightened than the one in the front, but still she walked with confidence. She wasn't going to be intimate Ted. Then there was the last one. She had neck-length dark blue hair and light blue eyes. She wore a blue raincoat with bunny ear-like attachments on the hood and a pair of matching boots. She looked around at all the men, with cautious. "I present the fresh meat," Bach said, pointing to the girls, as they walked up. All 3 of them looked surprised when he said it. They were promised a nice master. They thought they were going to some nice cushy place inside the palace walls. Bach added. Well, they were dead wrong. One of the men laughed. They're ours now. Another snickered, as they moved from the table, and grabbed the girls. All of the girls struggled and the men gasped, and then the blue-haired one looked up at them in anger. Let us go. You have no right to do this. She hissed. All of the men began to laugh, as one of them looked at the blue-haired girl. Rights? We don't need a right. It's the Imperial capital. We can do whatever the fuck we want. Now be a good obedient little bitch, and sit. He commanded. Screw you. The girl shouted, spitting in the man's face. He slowly wiped off the salvia, and looked back at her with a sadistic smile. Oh. I wish you wouldn't have done that. He said, instantly snapped his fingers. Within seconds 2 guys grabbed onto the little girl. No, let me go. She screamed out, trying to get out of their grasp. Her friends could only watch in horror. Bach simply smirked, and walked up to the man, and whispered into his ear. A second later a smile appeared across his face. Put her there. He commanded, pointing to the table before them. They complied, and threw her down. The man looked down at her. Now I'm going to show you what happens when you mess with someone better than you here. Her friends are terrified, ha 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 ha. Bach shouted out, pointing to the pink and blonde-haired girls, whose eyes were frozen in place. Watching. Teach them a lesson too. One of the men shouted out. The guards complied, and began to punch and kick the small girls. The lead man gave a nod, and one of the men holding her, grabbed onto her eye, and tried to rip it out. She began to scream in agony. No. Let go of my eye. Ready to go blind, bitch? The man in charge asked, with a sadistic smile. God, he loved this. Ready to die, asshole? A voice shouted out, all throughout the room, as if it was coming from all directions. What? The man asked, looking up confused. A shiver went down Bach's spine, and the man trying to take the little girl's eye out stopped. A split second later Naruto barreled through the wall directly in front of them. He had his chakra knuckle blades at the ready. Enemy attack. One of the men shouted, but it was muffled by the other explosions. Multiple other Narutos rushed in, and began to engage the other guards. Cover the boss. One of the men screamed out, as Naruto sprinted towards them. He wouldn't let these men get away. Fire, fire, fire. One of the men yelled out. They all began to shoot towards the blonde. A wall of lead quickly approached him, but the blonde paid it no mind. He made some hand signs, and disappeared just before the bullets would have hit him. He reappeared right next to the man who had almost ripped the little girl's eye out. Naruto dug one of his chakra blades into the man's chest, and the other into his cheek. He tossed the man aside, and picked up the little blue-haired girl. His clones reached the other 2 girls, and grabbed them as well. All of the Narutos disappeared, with the girls. Where the hell did they come from? One of the men asked, clearly panicking. How many are there? Another asked. Who cares, just fired. Bach shouted out, taking out a pistol, and shooting in random directions. The rest of the men soon followed. After a couple seconds the gunfire died down, and the men began to try, and get a grip on the situation. Crap. Anyone see them? One asked. The little bitches are gone. The lead man said to Bach. Damn it. Bach shouted out, he had just lost a goddamn prophet. We've lost 9 guys. Another said, as they began to huddle around the boss, and Bach. Shit. Cover me, you idiots. The boss shouted out, they all continued to surround him, and began to wait in silence. Suddenly through one of the broken walls an yellow glow appeared. It caught everyone's attention. What is that? One of them asked, clearly being attracted to the light. Like a moth to a flame. 2 of you go check it out. Bach ordered. A second later the group pushed out two men, and they slowly began to walk towards the pulsating light. One of the men neared it and reached out to touch it, through the wall. "Is anyone in here?" The man was immediately interrupted, as the wall was torn apart and 3 Narutos barged in. "Rasengan!" one of them shouted, shoving it into the man that was closest to him. The clone pushed him back into the man behind him. They both went flying across the room. "Take him out," Bach ordered, standing at the front of the group. He was confused, with the amount of copies there were of the man, but he didn't pay it much mind. Bach was more concerned why no one had charged yet. All of the clones in front of him smirked. "Guys?" Bach asked, turning around. His eyes widened in shock and horror. Another one of the blondes stood behind him, with all of the men's bodies on the floor. Bach pissed his pants, as he fell to the floor. "What the hell do you want? Money, power, women? I can give you it all. Just don't kill me," he pleaded. "I don't think so," Naruto said with a blank expression. Something that Akame had taught him over the past week. He was glad he picked it up quick. Otherwise he didn't know if he'd be able to do this. "Who are you?" Bach asked, looking up at the blonde. Naruto readied his blades. "Me? I'm nobody," he said, raising his blades above the man. Bach screamed out. "No, wait." But it was soon silenced by a splatter of blood on the floor, and a thump. Naruto didn't bother to look back, as he walked away. He didn't want to. The Jinchuriki moved into the another room off to the side where a couple of his clones were, and the little girls. "Are those girls okay?" he asked, pointing to each of them in a different clone's arm. "They're all injured. We need to take all of them with us to the base, so we can properly heal them," one of the clones explained. Kurama immediately began to growl at this point, but the blonde didn't have time to ask what wrong. He needed to get these girls out of here. "All right. Let's move," the original Naruto ordered. They all nodded, and jumped through the hole in the roof, created earlier by the blonde, to make a quick escape. Naruto was the last one up, but as he jumped on, all his clones stared forward with anger in their eyes. The original moved up to the front, where he got a clear view of what they were all staring at. "I thought I'd find you here, Naruto." The blue-haired woman laughed, as she stood before all the clones. "Esdeath," Naruto growled, so this is what got Kurama riled up. Akame stood, watching over the streets below. She looked all around for the slightest bit of activity, particular for a certain blonde. She knew she shouldn't be worried, he was basically unbeatable. But still Akame couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was going to happen. "Phew. That was easy." Leon yawned, jumping into the roof, next to her. "Yeah," was all Akame could say. She was too busy lost in thought. "Hey, what's wrong? Worried about your lover?" Leon joked. Akame's face instantly turned 10 shades darker. "He's not my..." she began. Leon began to roll on the roof, laughing. "Ha ha ha. Your face is so red." A moment later Tatsumi and Seo appeared in front of the two. Both were slightly bruised and bloody. "Hey guys," Tatsumi shouted out with a smile and a wave. No matter what happened, the boy would always have a smile on his face. "Oh Seo, Tatsumi, you're back. How'd it go?" Leon asked. "Target eliminated," Seo said with a smile. Leon's eyes instantly lit up. Some other night raid members, mainly mine, didn't believe that they were ready for this. "Good job you two. I knew I was right to have faith in you." "Thanks," Tatsumi said, with an awkward wave. He then focused on Akame, who stared off into the city. If Tatsumi knew any better, he would have guessed that she was getting antsy, but she stayed focused in the one directions. "What's wrong with Akame?" Tatsumi asked. Leon waved him on, and she approached the girl. Leon knew there was something wrong with her, as her eyes were now filled with seriousness. But then a second later Leon felt something as well. A massive amount of killing intent rushed past her. You can feel it too. Leon began. This killing intent. Akame said, eyes widening. It's coming from the same direction, where Naruto's supposed to be. Leon said, crossing her arms as she stared off, towards the palace. Akame looked up to Leon, and she nodded in return. So a second later Akame jumped off the side of the roof towards the source of the killing intent. Akame! Tatsumi shouted out, rushing to the edge of the building. I wouldn't bother, it's no use now. They've grown attached to each other. Leon said, with a snicker. But still. Tatsumi said looking down. He wanted to help his teammates. She'll be fine, Naruto's over there remember. He could level the entire city if he wanted to. Leon joked, but deep down inside she was slightly worried, as well. Could it be another Kaiser class? Naruto stood on the roof, facing Esdeath with a scowl on his face. His clones stood behind him, holding the little girls. They were all on the defense, for any sudden movements. What do you want Esdeath? Don't tell me you want to fight. Naruto spat out, crossing his arms. She smirked. Oh, nothing like that. The sky had now turned to night, and spectators below were now watching from the streets. Some of them ran away in fear at the sight of Esdeath, others were fascinated by Naruto. How could someone stand so strong against the Empire's strongest? I'm not going to join this pitiful empire. I've already told you I won't. The blonde spat out, as he raised his weapons. His clones got ready, as well. I know Naruto. I just wanted to see you again. Esdeath said, with a soft voice, as she began to approach him. Stay away from them. Naruto shouted out, moving forward. He turned back to his clones, with a sense of urgency. Get the little girls out of here. You got it. One of the clones said, with a salute. But suddenly the girl with the pink hair, slowly opened her eyes, in the clone's arm. She looked up at the clone, and spoke in a weak voice. Where are you taking us? The clone smiled down at her. Someplace safe. As the copy spoke the words orange pigment formed above his eyes. The same could be said for the other clones, as well. The pink-haired girl's eyes widened. This man's smile looked sincere, and warming. Nothing like the hollow, and fake smile that Bach presented them with, when her, and her friends met him. She believed he was telling the truth. Thank you. The pink-haired girl said with a weak smile, before falling unconscious again. After the little girl fell unconscious, Naruto's clones began to jump from roof to roof, off into the darkness of the Imperial city. The original began to speak with Esdeath again. Now then. What is it, that you want? Esdeath smiled again. The Prime Minister has requested an audience with you, as well as the Emperor. Naruto's eyes instantly widened. Why in the world would he want to meet with him? The Prime Minister knew that Naruto could kill him at any time, right? What makes you think I'll attend? Naruto asked, regaining his composure. You don't have to, of course, I'm just messenger. Esdeath said, with another smirk. Naruto got the strange feeling that, there was something else. You're here for another reason, aren't you? Naruto said, with a raised eyebrow. He figured out quick. Esdeath said to herself. My, you're quite perceptive. So what is it, that you want? Naruto said, crossing his arms again. She walked closer to him and pointed straight at him. Naruto Uzumaki, you're no doubt the strongest man in this world, that's why I've officially declared that I have fallen in love with you, and I'm going to marry you. What? Naruto asked, deadpanned. What? Kurama asked, inside his head. I don't expect you to accept, but I'll get you. One way or another. She said, walking away from him. She knew she would get him. She was the first to claim him. Sorry Esdeath, but I already am taken by someone else. Naruto said with a grin. Huh? Esdeath asked. Someone else had what? But before she could say anything else, Esdeath immediately moved to the side. Just in time to dodge the katana that passed her face. Akame came flying by, and aimed a punch at Esdeath. The general simply dodged again, flawlessly. Akame grabbed her sword, and moved back to Naruto. "Who are you?" Esdeath demanded. "Akame, what the hell are you doing here?" Naruto shouted out, trying to get her attention. The assassin turned back for just a second. "I'm here for," the split second was all Esdeath needed. She barreled towards Akame with a sadistic smile. "Never take your eye off the enemy," she yelled out, aiming her rapier, with a laugh. "Now time to die." She yelled, reaching Akame with her sword. But a moment later Naruto shattered her sword, with his fist, that now glowed bright orange from Kurama's chakra. But only his fist had the chakra cloak on it, nowhere else on the body. He stared at Esdeath with anger. "I won't let you touch her," he shouted out. Esdeath immediately knew what was going on, as she watched Naruto instinctively protect her. "Ah. I see. So she's the one," Esdeath said. She now knew that this girl Akame was the one she needed to get rid of. "Leave now. Or I'll kill you," Naruto shouted out again. "Fine. But remember the request. Meet us at the place where we first met." She smiled. "Leave." The blonde spat out, with anger. Esdeath smiled, and walked away. But she stopped right in her tracks, and turned back to the Jinchuriki. "And Naruto?" "What?" he yelled out again. Was this woman seriously not getting the message? "Don't think the Revolutionary Army is all that just either. You should see some of their higher-ups, and who do you think unleashed the danger beasts on that village?" Esdeath explained to him. "What?" Naruto froze, as the images of the destroyed village came back into mind. He knew she had to be lying, he just knew. "I know the Empire's corrupt, but do you really think the rebels are so much better? Their leaders aren't even of this nation. Just remember that, Naruto," Esdeath explained to him, before jumping away back towards the palace. Naruto froze for a moment, he was going through everything she just told him. He still believed she was lying though. But Naruto had to confirm it with Najenda. He needed to meet with the head of the Revolutionary Army. The Jinchuriki needed to be sure he was actually fighting the good fight. "Naruto?" Akame asked, looking at him. He had been quiet for some time, as he stood on the roof. The blonde instantly snapped out of his thoughts, and turned to Akame. "I'm fine. Are you okay?" he shouted out, looking at her for any sign of injury. "I'm fine, okay, thank you," Akame said with a slight laugh. You never knew what you'd get from the blonde. Without saying a word Naruto picked up Akame bridal style. "We need to get back to base, hold on," he commanded. "What are you doing?" Akame stuttered out, getting slightly red. This love that they were forming, was certainly developing beautifully for them. "It's similar to my father's Justu, that let him teleport to his kunai, but I've been working on a new one, which allows me to teleport to any of my clones. Who probably have already returned to the base by now," Naruto explained to her. Akame's eyes widened, with shock. There was no way his clones could travel that fast. "There's no way they can be that fast, Naruto," Akame said, looking at him, with a skeptical expression. "Yes, with Sage Mode they can. Now hold on," he said, beginning to make various hand signs. Akame held on to him tightly, as he finished the hand signs. A split second later they disappeared from the rooftop, leaving the area in silence. Moments later they reappeared behind one of Naruto's clones. They were now in a darkened forest. Naruto and Akame had popped out right in the middle of the clone group, which startled almost everyone. They all came to a stop to try and get their bearings. "Boss!" one of them shouted out, trying not to run into them. "Naruto!" Tatsumi shouted out, staring at the two who appeared right in front of him. Naruto and Akame looked behind them to see everyone on one of the clones' back. Naruto. You're both okay? Leon shouted, running up and hugging both of them. Yeah, we're fine. What's going on? He asked, looking around at all his clones. Your clones caught up to us, as they were leaving the city. Tatsumi explained, walking up to them. We decided to give them a lift, boss. One of the clones said with a smirk. 3 more of his clones walked up with the still unconscious girls in their arms. Although Leon was kinda heavy. Another clone said, walking up to them and rubbing his neck. Naruto guessed that his clones made more of themselves to carry the rest. Ow! One of the clones shouted out, as Leon smacked him across the head. Shut your mouth! She yelled out, trying to strangle him. As Leon was trying to murder one of the clones, Sayo walked over to them. What happened? She asked. We ran into Esdeath. Naruto said, with a sigh. Tatsumi's eyes widened. You did? What happened? He shouted. Naruto took a deep breath, before deciding to tell all of them the news. The Prime Minister wants to meet with me. This time everyone including Leon and Akame looked shocked. Akame hadn't heard about that at all. This wasn't good, not at all. Leon immediately ran up to the blonde, and began to shake him like crazy. What? She shouted out. Naruto just awkwardly smiled at her, but in his head the things Esdeath said about the Revolutionary Army kept coming up. What if she wasn't entirely wrong? He asked himself. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.